I have to say, I was drawn in by the name. Megan has a business, Joy World Wealth Partners, and I saw that the blood drive back in the fall was there. And I thought, one, I had not heard of this business, but two, I loved the name of it. It was so positive. I'm like, I'm going to go to this blood drive. So I donated blood, and then afterwards, you get to go to the canteen. For those of you, I've done jokes recently. For I joke that I have to say it at blood donation weights. So all you skinny biatches out there, you're welcome because I just keep eating carbs so I can keep donating. But I was led to the canteen where you get to have your cookies of my carbs that I love and, some juice so that you don't pass out because that happened to me when I first donated when I was 18. And Megan, who has Joy World Wealth Partners and who is running the blood drive in honor of a good friend of hers, who had passed, started talking with me. We were chit-chatting, and I started telling her about the podcast and about a variety of things, and that's how we got connected. So I am really excited to have this conversation for a variety of reasons because I always want to learn. Good morning and welcome, Megan Alpert. How are you?
Good morning, Janine. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Well, and I want to say before I'm going to start off already not doing what I said I was going to do. No, I want you to share about your background, but I also want to give you an opportunity to say, like when I met you that day with the blood drive, you were doing that in honor of a friend. Do you want to just talk briefly? I know we didn't say we are going to talk about this, but I just think why you were doing that and the value of how blood donations can save lives.
Absolutely. I think it's definitely part of my story and the story of Joy World. So it'll be 4 years that my dear friend Lindsay Connor Stetson had a courageous battle with cancer and sadly passed away. And throughout her journey, she was given so many hundreds of pints of blood, and it was her ask of us, can we, give back? So of course we would donate on our own, but we wanted to do something bigger and more powerful. And we called the Red Cross, and we had never hosted a blood drive. We had just launched the business in July. And they said, absolutely, yes. They came and we did it, and we were successful. I mean, we had 19 donors. Thanks for you for being one of them, Janine. And I believe we saved, I can't remember exactly the total, but a few hundred people, lives.
That's great. And it's cool. And again, for those of you, I understand there's many reasons why people cannot donate. So I'm not, trying to, diss anyone at all. But if you do donate or if you want to try it, and I get the app, and I think it's so cool when you get the app from the Red Cross, maybe you get a cool t-shirt. I've gotten hats, I've gotten lunch bags, you name it. But now with the app, you can actually follow your blood journey. Like I've seen my blood has stayed here in Northeast PA, but it's also gone up to a hospital, I think, in upstate New York, Maryland. I don't care as long as it's helping people. But it's also kind of cool too, from a I don't want to say selfish perspective, but somewhat for a self-care perspective. You can keep track too of your blood pressure. They take your iron, your hematocrit level, which is your iron in your blood, and that stays in the app too. So it's kind of interesting. I'm like, boy, I had lower blood pressure than and I look at stuff. So that's kind of cool. But I think it's really neat to see the journey of the blood too, to see where it goes. And it makes you feel good to know that like this is helping people. So thank you, Megan, though, for holding that. And I have to say, I truly was drawn to the name Joy World, and you told me the story, which I loved. But before we get into that and your business endeavors, tell me a little bit and tell our listeners just a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I grew up in Dunmore, Pennsylvania, to my wonderful parents, Bill and Kathy McDonough, the oldest of four children. And I was lucky enough to meet my boyfriend, now husband, my high school sweetheart. I married my best friend, and we've been together for many, many years, more than half of our lives. And we have three incredible children. Jack is a freshman in high school, Ben is in seventh grade, and Audrey's in second grade. And I have to also bring up that I have two lovely little fur babies, two mini Cavapoos named Francine and Ricky. So that's our little family unit. We are a tight unit for sure.
So, as I mentioned, you can't shit in Scranton. So you're McDonough. I'm wondering, we have to talk offline if I'm related. Are you related to the Ives by any chance?
No, but I know them very well from Dunmore.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Because I'm related to Carl and Kathy Ives, and I know I'm also there's McDonough's in the works there somewhere. So that's funny. I'm like, okay, you never know who you're
You
related to
never know.
around here.
If you ask enough questions, you're probably related.
Yeah, yeah. Just be careful of that before you get married, folks out there. But
That's true.
so tell me about, so I loved, again, I just love the name of your practice, and I'll admit at first I was like, I never heard of this business. Tell me what led to you starting this and the story behind, like, I remember a little bit the day you were telling me when I was there at the canteen for the blood donation that that you talked about the naming of your business was really important, and I think you said you even talked about it with your, if I'm not mistaken, some of your children about it. But
Mhm.
share with me like how you got to this point and
Mhm.
how you named your business. Because again, I just think it's a very positive thing, which is great to see in a business right off the bat, the name of the business.
Thanks for saying that. We love it too, and it's a very special story. And I alluded to it before with the blood drive. So I've been in the financial services industry since I'm pretty much out of college, almost 20 years. 19 of them with the same firm, which is pretty rare. My background was actually in psychology. I always thought I would be a school psychologist. I loved children. I loved helping people, and just wanted to do that route. When I had got my first job out of college, I was actually a preschool teacher at a Merrill Lynch Family Center in New Jersey, where my husband and I, before we were married, had moved for a position for his work. And I met some amazing executives at Merrill that saw something special in me, and they had offered me an interview at the home office at that time. And I really couldn't imagine with the psychology background what I would do in a financial services company. But I really was able to get hired as an entry level bookkeeper. And I love to say, learn the industry from the ground up, but really from the inside out. So I was able to work in the home office for a number of years, really learn and understand the industry. And we were supporting at that time wealth management practices in the branch office. And fast forward a few years ahead, we had moved back home to Northeast PA. My husband had had an opportunity, and I was able to stay with the current firm. And there I was able to work as a client associate. So I was able to support large financial advisory teams and their clients. And I learned a lot of what I did like and what I didn't like. And through that period, I saw the need for female financial advisors because I saw a lot of couples coming in for meetings with their male advisors typically, and they would leave glazed over. They wouldn't be engaged in the conversation, or sometimes they wouldn't come in at all. And that really was my driving force at that point to study on the night, at night and on the weekends while I had two small little boys working full time, and got my licensing, my Series 7, my 66, and my insurance license. And from that point, I was ready to go into this financial advisor training program, which was 48 months long at the time and very, very competitive. The success rate was very low, especially as a female. So I was able to get through that with some great mentors and great help, build a great practice of loyal clients, and help a lot of people, which was in my DNA. And at that point, I was able to find a partner, doubled my business in 5 years, and I just felt like very grateful for where I was. And they asked me to run the financial advisor training program, so I did that for 5 years after I graduated, which was so rewarding, and just to give back and lift up the next generation into the field. And then I just kind of looked around during the pandemic. Actually, it hit and things slowed down, and I really just looked at my values and looked at where I had been and felt a lot of gratitude. But I knew that there was something inside of me that I couldn't ignore. So I started exploring, talking to other professionals. I knew I needed to be in this industry, but it wasn't this in this capacity or at this firm any longer. So about 24 months, I would say it took me of interviewing, due diligence, to figure out where I was going to be for the next 20 plus years. And I met this woman actually at a fitness class many years ago, and we just kept on reconnecting. She had been an independent female financial advisor, and she had introduced me to the firm that I ended up partnering with called Commonwealth Financial. And I really never thought about being an independent advisor, just being from a large wirehouse firm. It was all I had ever known. And she really opened my eyes to what was possible and what was next. And when I did my home office visit, I did about 10 home office visits, but when I went there, I just felt so at peace and so at home. It was like I kept on going, but I knew in my heart that that was it. So circling back, you're able to name your own firm. So like they are your back office, they are your support team, Commonwealth Financial, which is great. But I was able to work with the marketing team within the firm to come up with key messaging, marketing, website, and that was the really fun creative part to say like, this is who I was, who am I moving forward, and the great story about the name is that at the time, my daughter and my two sons and I and my husband were sitting around talking about ideas, and the marketing firm presents you with the names. But my daughter said, Mom, you should name your firm, at the time she was 6, Joy World, because of Lindsay and her legacy. And the backstory to that is when Lindsay was sick, she was very public about her journey. And she had such an outpouring from her community and strangers going through similar situations that she and her husband actually started a foundation called Spread Joy. So it became a 501c3 probably within like a month before she passed away. So it's been our family's mission. I'm on the board of that nonprofit along with some other family and friends and close acquaintances of Lindsay's. And it's just been part of our world. So for my daughter at 6 to say that, we kind of brushed it off and giggled. And then I may have shared that. I definitely shared that with the marketing team that I worked with for 12 weeks. And they unveiled these 4 beautiful names at the end of our session. And the last one was Joy World Partners. And I just got this feeling over my body and chills. I was like, so emotional about it because I had never thought that was going to be the name. And now it just seems like, of course it's the name. Why would we ever have thought anything different? So my daughter is 8 now, and she calls herself the co-founder of Joy World Wealth Partners. So she is pretty impressive.
I'll say that's a resume for an 8-year-old. Good for her. I love the young women that are going to be the future leaders because they're like already kicking butt, which is great.
Right? It's amazing.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, a heck of a lot better than previous generations. I'm still working on stuff at 52. So good for her. Well, and that's wonderful that this is like a legacy to some degree. But it's got to also, I would say, influence how you do business, like, and people who you have there. How do you find that you do that in the work that you do? Like try and keep that joy, because I understand we all have stress and financial matters can create a lot of stress. So how do you have that positive attitude in the work that you do and then spread that on to your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it kind of goes back to I've always been a seeker and I've always been, the glass is half full type of a person. But I realized I was doing that like positive psychology where I was kind of like not getting down deep to like the difficult parts of the shame and the guilt and old things, old traumas, if you'll say. And I was just putting that on top. So during that pandemic period, I really looked inward and I was able to really do a deep dive. It's painful to look inside. It's painful to look in the mirror and to, and especially for me, because, being in the financial services industry does not make you immune to the TV, the news, all the negative energy that's being thrown at us and especially in the world. So for me to actually do that work and feel safe in my own body with money and give my own situation the attention and the watering, if you will, it really made me able to help so many more people to find that sense of peace, joy, and ease when it comes to their finances. So I really do believe we're financial missionaries at Joy World. We really are out to make the world a better place. And it always goes back to, I love working with couples. It's my favorite thing to do to get them on the same page. But my passion is really to help women and to help young girls, because as you know, we are constantly inundated. Women are not good with money. Women are not good with math. Women are not, like, that's not true. And studies do show that, when it comes to financial education, men and women are equally educated when it comes to personal finance, but women lack confidence, whereas men have more. And I do really believe that that just comes with, education, attention, community, talking about it. Like I always say, to give my clients a money date, take an hour each week and just, get into a good relationship, a positive relationship with your money, because we can't just avoid it. And I was guilty of it myself. So I understand, money is emotional and it can be scary sometimes, but I don't like when shame and guilt or fear could hold us back, because we don't have to do it alone, and there's always hope.
Yeah. I mean, you said so many important things there. And it's unfortunately, I think like I'm a Gen Xer of 52. We did not have any financial education. And I mean, I didn't take courses because back then there was that stereotype, but I'll admit what I gravitate toward. I'm a creative type, so I liked the English more. I liked the writing more. But there weren't, there wasn't a focus on learn about economy and budgets. And I think I'm glad to see someone posted recently on LinkedIn that it was going to be added to some curriculum somewhere, like financial literacy. And I think it is so important. I had Emily Hickox was a guest on not too long ago, and I said something about myself and feeling guilty, and she said, "Don't blame yourself. It's don't take that shame." But I've had that because we didn't have that training. And I'll admit I am not good with money, but I have to stop saying that and
Yes,
start
it's your old
changing
story.
that. Yes, that's
Hmm.
right. It is my old story because money it's impactful, and it does cause stress. It affects our mental health, our mental wellness, because if you're worried about paying the bills or you're worried about making a living, and as a solopreneur, that's what I do worry about, that affects mental health and which is health. So yeah,
Exactly.
you're absolutely right. I do have to change that story, and I think a lot of women probably do. And it's wonderful to know that people like yourself are there to help them get through that.
Absolutely. Because I really do look at it as like holistic financial planning, like exactly what you said. Money intersects every part of our lives. And if we can, give it that attention, create some plans, create some partnerships, and realize that we're not perfect, we're going to have setbacks. Money is fluid, it's never going to be tied up in a neat bow and easy. We have ebbs and flows. Like, for example, like you said, being a solopreneur, same with me. I took a step back to take a giant step forward, to believe in myself, obviously. And it's just to know that there's help, there's hope, and it doesn't have to be the way it always was. And sometimes those patterns are hard to break, but with accountability and trust and the right plan, anything is possible, which is really so exciting.
You mentioned, and I didn't have this on my initial. It's funny. I know Megan had asked for a list of questions because, again, we have to be careful. You're not giving financial advice here. I know there are certain, there are strict restrictions. We have to be careful, but I won't get into any of that. I assure you. But I just thought of something as you were talking about young women. Do you do, besides obviously your daughter's going to be a kick butt female, is a kick butt female already? Do you do any work with young women as far as educating on? Are there any programs that you're involved in or that you even know of that you support in the community that help young women to be ahead of the game, so to speak, so that they're
Yeah.
ready when they have to budget and everything?
Yeah, that's so like my children actually go to Howard Gardner, and I'm really impressed with that school because they do a stock market challenge, they do a budgeting session, and that's right in the middle school years, which I think is so incredibly important to like hear my seventh grader, in fifth grade talking about his utility bills and his car payment and just things that you should be talking about with your children. But if you're not in the business and you weren't brought up that way and you don't have a passion for it, I could see how it just goes by the wayside. But it is my mission to really empower and educate more children. So I do it in my own practice, of course, with my clients. I have, older people, then I have baby boomers, and of course their children come in and I get them started with their own account with, their parents as custodians and teach them about just personal finance topics. But I'm really focusing on like health and wellness with women right now. But I know that there's so many great programs out there, but it's something that I'm interested in getting more involved with. But I had this intern this past summer, and I had known her many years before. We danced together. She's much younger than me, but she ended up being my intern, and her mother works at Scranton Prep. So they actually asked me to speak on the industry there to the students, just talking about a career in wealth management, but of course, talking about personal finance and different tips and things like that. So that's definitely a passion and a mission for me. So more to come on that, because I would love to have like a get started with investing or get started with personal finance. More of that to come.
It would be so valuable. It is everything that you're doing helps, but that would be great. As also as I was thinking of my conversation previously with Emily, because Emily was on about a month or two ago, and she talked about how she talks to her kids about things like that, and she loves hearing them when they get their allowance or whatever. Like, I have this much to spend, and I think that's wonderful because the idea that money's it doesn't grow on trees. So having kids understand that like there is a certain amount, and when you have that amount, what can you buy with it and things like that. But she brought up an interesting point, and I'd like to ask you your thoughts on that. What do you say to parents who are like, "Oh, I don't want my young ones having to think like adults, or I don't want them to worry about finances." I mean, there's obviously a way to go about it where you're trying to teach them, you're not trying to burden them.
hmm Well, it's interesting because I was just watching Good Morning America this morning, and they were talking about age-appropriate times to talk to children about money, beginning in kindergarten, actually, because they said if you don't start talking to your children about money in a healthy way and include them in the conversation early on, then you'll end up being like I'll say not putting your own oxygen mask on first and taking care of your older children because I've seen time and time again clients that kind of never did that, and it's never too late because they could always talk in their 30s or 40s. It's never too late. That's a very important thing to note, but they're taking money out of their own retirement, either contributions or savings to help their grown children because they've never really learned to manage money. So it is like there's so many great books for young children, and there's so many nice apps that like my children have this app and like a debit card called Go Henry. There's many out there. There's Greenlight, which also allows your children to invest and do budgeting. But there's all these lessons, and they're made for their age appropriate time. And when they finish that lesson and they pass the quiz, then they get a certain amount of rewards, and then that in turn creates more money for them with their allowance. So it's a nice reward system, and they're so proud. Like they're talking about identity theft and banks, and because a lot of kids today have never even been into a bank. I mean, it's like all digital banking. So it's a really, it's a hard concept because it's not tangible. So it's definitely something that we need to make a part of it, and like partnering with the financial advisor, reading books, listening to podcasts. There's so many blogs out there. There's almost like an abundance of information. So it could be overwhelming, but definitely start somewhere. And I always say just to read something 1 hour each week to move yourself forward with something that you're not familiar with, and you're always learning and growing, and as the world is changing and financial matters are changing. So
Oh, absolutely. I think I need those apps. I don't have kids, but maybe for myself, that would be a good place to start.
exactly. Well,
Let's
you and
keep
I
it
can have a cup of
simple.
coffee, and I always say we'll talk about your hopes, your dreams, and your fears, and then eventually we'll talk about your money,
Ah, okay.
because that
Is
is so important to talk about the whole picture and
is
then
that,
how
I
it
mean, is that something you use with your clients?
hmm yes.
Which
Yeah,
I think is, I guess I can understand that because you want to understand their full picture, right? And
absolutely. And like even talking back to like your money story, like can you talk about like how your parents talked about money or didn't talk about money? And like sometimes we just take on our parents' money mindsets and we don't realize. And that was something that happened to me. It was just like I thought a philanthropist had to be very wealthy. Like I didn't understand that you can give blood and donate service and give small amounts of money. When things were starting out for us. So there was some unwiring that I had to do because it kind of becomes just part of our patterns.
absolutely. And I've said this before because I never want to throw shade. My parents are wonderful. I
Mm-hmm.
love them. They've been so supportive of me. But again, that's not something we talked about in our household. Like I probably heard them talk about money to some degree, like paying bills. But we're middle class. The bills got paid, so it's not like I worried about the heat or the light being shut off. But we weren't wealthy. But so we didn't have those conversations. And I had a paper out when I was 14. So I
Mm-hmm.
got that perspective, but I mean, and I would never say they should have done anything differently, but it's, we were never a household where it was like money was really talked about that much,
Mm-hmm.
and definitely
Same.
not something to aspire to. And it's interesting. I had this conversation. I have this often, and again, about my past. I need to stop dwelling in that and move forward. Women do lack overall, we lack confidence,
Mm-hmm.
especially compared to men. And it's like, this joke, they'll be like, yeah, I got a year's experience, give me $1 million. And women will be like, well, I only have 20 years, I don't know if I'm what you're looking for. We do that, and I see that a
Yes.
lot. I do that a lot. I underprice for my services. I've had
Mm-hmm.
this conversation with other women, and
Mm-hmm.
someone I had coffee with today, and part of it is this region. I said, this is I love this area. So, but I mean, every area has its flaws, but we're like a blue collar, also Catholic upbringing where it's about service and guilt and, I shouldn't ask too much. So for me, that's my story, but I have to stop and just
Hmm.
break through. But it's not easy breaking
Hmm.
that mindset and saying, no, I'm worth this.
It's
I
a
see.
practice.
Yes,
It's
yes.
uncomfortable. I mean, there's no question. Like our brains are wired to keep us safe, and our brain wants to keep us safe from all the threats around us, and that's a threat for our body. So I just had a client recently who's a solopreneur, and she got a large project as a creative, and she had to send a very large invoice out, and we had to do a lot of work around that to get her to send that invoice because she thought they would be like, oh, this is crazy, this is outlandish, because like you said, of this Northeast PA sometimes mindset. But she's trying to think, okay, look at my clients all over the world, really, and think about the value that you put out and that you give to this world. And you are, it's just like energy. Money is energy, so it's like the value that we put out into the world is the value that we get back. So we are worth it. And like even negotiating, if you're an employee, I mean, like there's so much around that, and just taking care of ourselves and buying like quality things and aligning our values with our money. I mean, if you want to shop local, support women-owned businesses, and maybe spend 20% more. I mean, if like when you're in alignment with your money, that feels so good too. And that's a process as well.
Yeah. I love what you're saying, and it's so true. And I have to stop just saying, complaining about it and just start the change. But it isn't easy, especially when you're in a position where it's like, I've accrued some debt through the years, and sometimes you feel like in a hole and you have no idea how you're going to get out of it. But
Yes.
so it is. And then that's becomes the stressful part, and then you're worrying
Yes.
about it and you're like, oh my gosh, which you have to live. I mean, that
Of
you
course.
got the debt and you have to work it down, but you also have to live and go through the day
Exactly.
and not feel like you're carrying a boulder on your back all day.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And like and that does kind of come with it. Like a lot of people say, and I think the reason I did like, the independent route with Joy World was because, I was able to help a lot of traditional financial planning clients, but I'm able to help a lot of like, young people, like, going through a divorce and starting over from scratch and do more of like a consulting type of agreement. Like those things weren't available to me. And I feel like, that's a very important part of my business and practice. And I think that just with partnership and accountability and someone to feel safe with, that's the most important thing, that you can say anything. Like we always laugh here that our conference room and offices are like confessionals. Just like my associates, like people leave crying and hugging, like what's going on in there? I'm like, we're just having these breakthroughs because like we're realizing that we're worth it. It's self-love, it's self-care. Like we are value, we are enough. It's almost like a personal development course, really, in a spirituality. I think spirituality is very key in this aspect too. To have, ask our higher power or whoever, whatever we believe in, to remove those blocks that we're experiencing, and stop repeating those patterns that are not serving us.
Wow. And who would think that, right? When you think about like I know when I left Blue Cross, that was I had a degree in journalism, excuse me, and marketing, and I left in 2010 to go create, I had left to live this business that I have, and I left, and I always say I was never sorry one day that I left because that was no longer where I was happy. Plus, I had just myself. I didn't have children, so it wasn't that, oh no, I have to make sure I feed them. It was just me. But I
Mhm.
was never sorry a day that I left, but I was, if I had a DeLorean to go back in time, I would have had a little more training about business and money matters that I wasn't really prepared for. So, but it's
Mhm.
interesting. I was going to say, like, who would think of financial? My money is, that I had there in my 401k is now in an IRA, and it's just did it's just in Charles Schwab. Although I think we need to talk after today. I think I'll be making an appointment with you, but it's sitting there. I don't do anything with it. I don't
Mhm.
really know anything about it. And I've taken a hands-off approach, which is probably not the best approach.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's money is just like you don't know what to do sometimes.
I know. And like you want to take a step forward, but you just feel stuck on what's next. And I think just sitting down with somebody and kind of, laying it all out there, like where you are, where you'd like to be, and like what are some steps to get you there. I'm working on this program that I'm calling the Money Metamorphosis, and just picture an egg to a butterfly. And that is really something that will be coming in the next 6 to 12 months. I have 2 clients already signed up, which I'm really excited because I've only done it on my coworkers and family and myself, of course. So that's something that I think will be able to help a lot of people, because I really wish I could help so many people, but I'm only one person until I build out the firm appropriately. But there's just so many little steps that we need to know where to go, next. And like, just like you said, you can have a hands-off approach if you want to when it comes to investing, but still be understanding, what you have, why you own it, what's your risk tolerance, what's your time horizon, like how it affects you, because sometimes people will ask their friends or their neighbors like what they're investing in or what they are doing, but their goals can be completely different, their ages, their risk tolerance, what they're trying to accomplish. So we don't really like that too. Like it's definitely more customized per person. So
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because there are so many examples I can think of in my life where we tend to do that. I know I have, where you ask, well, who do you go to or who do you use for your this or that? And to your point, it's individualized, even with running. I've been running for over 10 years and you'll read articles and it's like, well, this is what I take. I nourish myself during a half marathon with goo or do this. Everybody has to learn their way. What is their
yes.
goal? Are they a competitive runner or are they just happy to complete the miles and don't worry about what that guy's doing or that gal's doing? Experience that I respect, but you'll still get two completely different answers. And it's like, oh boy, now I'm even more confused.
Yes. And it does help to have a referral. Like, if you went to a great restaurant, you're going to tell your friends. If you went to get to a salon that you really liked or a great therapist. So like even financial advising, but it's good to interview different people to see, are they a good fit for you and your situation? And maybe they are a good fit for that friend, like you said, that like, and trust, but it's just not the right one for you.
Yeah. And it's just such a different way to think of finances. And that's why I
Hmm.
love we're having this conversation because, years past or even growing up, a mindset of like finances, you never think of it as part of wellness, part of
No.
your whole big picture of life and joy and
Mhm.
how you get to
Yes.
experience that. Yeah. It's
Mhm.
so important. I love the approach that you've taken with this.
Thank you so much. I really do believe it's the future because psychology is so intertwined with money and our mindset. And I am the first one to say, like, I have my own financial advisor because money situations are emotional, and somebody else can see my situation very clearly, and I can see others very clearly. So it's really important to have that person. Like, you want a coach who has a coach, right? You want a trainer who has a trainer. So it's important to really look in the mirror and make sure you're being, you're walking the walk too, and not just telling others what you think is best for them. So,
I was going to say, and I think we've talked about it a little bit, but like obviously, like you having this psychology background, again, someone else or years ago, we might think, well, how does that go into money? But now listening to you talk, obviously that serves you very well.
mhm.
Understanding people and their
Yes.
needs, and then being able to advise them appropriately or in a way that suits them best.
Absolutely. Definitely.
Yeah, I think there's so much, and my degree is in journalism, and I have a master's in communications. But as I was, teaching, I taught part time at King's College, and as I would pull up different articles that I would want the students to read, I feel that psychology is so much involved in marketing as well. I mean,
Mhm.
the reasons why people buy things, the reasons
Mhm.
why people respond to things on social media, usually it's emotion, and that's tough because as someone who like I'm a content creator, I get frustrated at times because not everything's going to be like a big emotion draws you in, but is there substance,
Correct.
and there's so much, but as you're saying, it's the emotion that comes up with it, when we're making purchases or,
Mhm.
what's involved with that. It really is fascinating, honestly, how much emotion is involved behind decisions.
Mhm.
And then we need the rationale too. We need to be able to
Absolutely.
balance that.
Yes, exactly.
Well, I think that's fantastic, and I'm excited to watch what you've got coming up.
Yes, I'm excited. We have our health and wellness series starting in March. So we are going to be putting that out on social media and our website. We have a nutritionist, a personal trainer, and talking about self love, through financial flow. So really looking forward to that partnership and moving forward to give people what they're looking for in a community. And that's all we're trying to create is change for people that want to change, and a community that feels safe, and we all rise together.
That's wonderful for people to follow. And again, I don't know, is that series open to the public or is it just for the clients that you
Yes,
have?
it will be.
Okay.
It'll be open to the public. It'll be posted. I'm blanking on the date. I think it's March 22nd. Yep, it's Friday, March 22nd at 5:30 at Joy World Wealth Partners, and we will be posting the details and the speakers and their bios on our Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And our website is planwithjoyworld.com. And we're really looking forward to helping more people find peace, joy, and ease with their financial situation, and really changing lives and making a difference.
That's wonderful. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time today, Megan. Is there anything, excuse me, I think I asked all the questions. The only other question I didn't ask, which I did have on my list originally, was that how do you like being your own boss?
Yeah.
That's the
And it is
question I
like
wanted to
such
ask.
a great question because, at my previous firm, we were entrepreneurs, right? So we were running our own business under an umbrella. So being a business owner, it is so challenging. But it's a good thing because your mind never rests, as you know. You're thinking about so many facets of the business, but it's so rewarding and so fulfilling. It's stressful, I'm not going to lie, but I feel like the good stress over the bad stress, I'll take it any day. And I really have a wonderful team here at Joy World that we all share in the same vision and mission. And it's like coming to work with your friends and family. And my little family support has been incredible. Everybody feels like they have a part in the industry, in the business, and like we're really trying to just to give back to the community in so many different ways, and hosting First Fridays and blood drives and educational events, and just being a part of the downtown community is so it's just so rewarding. And we will be doing more, more in the future, and we're just so excited about where Joy World will go because we're about 7 months strong. So we'll see how things go, but they've been going really well so far. So we're very blessed.
And I'm sure it must have special meaning too that you're doing it back home in your hometown.
It really does. It really does. Just to be back, we've been back in the area for a number of years, but to really and then to show my children and other women and other young adults that you don't have to settle and you have choices, and with proper planning and faith and a great team, anything is possible. And it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it.
That's a wonderful message. Yeah. Is there anything in closing that we didn't talk about, or a message or something that you just really wanted to say that you just didn't have the opportunity to say yet?
I just think I always go back to one of my favorite quotes by the late and great Maya Angelou, and it's, when you know better, you do better. And I think it's really important for us to not let shame or fear or guilt hold us back from living our very best lives, because we want to live our best lives possible with the resources that we have, and give back where we want to give back and support what we want to support. It's like our money is a prayer for what we want to see more of in the world. So I think that we should look at it differently than sometimes we see or read about.
That's great. Yeah. And of course, who better to quote than Maya Angelou? She's, I always think of her other quote too. People may forget what you do or what you say, but they'll never forget how you made them feel.
Yes.
Which is, yeah, I mean, so true. So true.
Yes, that one was on my old office back at my old firm. That's my absolute favorite because it really is so true. When you feel connected and trusted and heard and seen, I mean, that's all we're looking for, right? In this life is just connection and community and trust and support.
Yeah. Well, and I want to say what I remembered that day after donating blood, how you made me feel that you were warm. And honestly, and it was like, of course, I'm sitting there blathering around about what I do. And I'm like, oh, I love talking about myself. You kidding? But I mean, you were so like kind and to like lead me back and then to talk to me. And I just felt good. I felt warm connection. So I appreciate it that day.
Oh, thank you. And I'm so excited for our upcoming events with Laughter Yoga, and we'll be continuing to work together. And I would love to have you come in for a cup of coffee and help you in any way I can.
I appreciate that. I really do. That's wonderful. And I love the vibe. I love everything that you're about with the positivity because we need more of that in this world. And to have it actually in a business, I think is fantastic. And in the community of Scranton makes me feel happy. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It was a delight.
Thank you. Well, I will put information in the show notes so that folks can find Joy World Wealth Partners, find you on Instagram, you said, Facebook, LinkedIn, the website to make sure that you can check it out and watch for the upcoming events in March and going forward. It sounds like you're going to have a lot going on, which is fantastic. So everybody out there in Northeast PA, or if you're visiting, come check it out. And I would like to say, I'm drawing a blank, but I've got some great guests lined up. I have Lynn coming up from Now and Zen. She's a running coach. She's also opened up a business, vegan. I know she has soups, and she's opened that up in northeastern Pennsylvania. She's going to be a guest coming up. I'm also going to be talking to someone in April because it's Autism Awareness Month. So I'll have a woman talking about, her own situation, her own life, and how she's helping others with her nonprofit. So as always, fascinating, fantastic women every week that have something to share, to inspire, inform, and sometimes we have a little entertainment as well. So check out the show notes for the information that we talked about today, and also check out the show notes. I do put in there a link to my Buy Me a Coffee. If you'd like to help support this podcast with a monetary investment, you can give me $5. You can give me $1,000. Hey, why not go for $1 million? I say that jokingly, but if you have something to invest and you want to help support that, and also keep in mind if you don't have that money, do not worry because you can support in other ways by sharing this podcast. Tell a friend, tell a foe, tell anyone you know, put it on your social media, write a review or testimonial. It means so much because we're not all Joe Rogan. We don't all have that kind of background and support. Us little guys and gals need your help too, and we greatly appreciate it. And as I always say, I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart and the bottom of my wine glass.